The blade was pressed so close to Aisha's throat she could feel the cold metal kissing her skin with every breath. Jung Dae stood behind her, one arm wrapped around her waist like an iron band, the other holding the knife steady. His chest rose and fell against her back, his breath hot on her neck. "You went into my office," he said, voice dangerously soft. "After I explicitly forbade it." Aisha's heart hammered, but she refused to show fear. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, exposing more of her throat in a gesture that was either brave or insane. "Maybe I wanted to see what you're hiding." She felt him tense, felt the knife tremble for just a second. Then she did something that would haunt him for weeks. She reached back slowly, deliberately, and ran her hand along his thigh, feeling the muscle jump beneath her touch. "What are you doing?" His voice had gone rough. "Testing a theory." She turned her head just enough to meet his dark eyes. "You're not going to hurt me, Jung Dae. You want to. God knows you probably should. But you won't." The knife lowered. His hand shot to her chin, gripping it firmly, forcing her to face forward. "Don't test me, Aisha." "Why not?" She pressed back against him deliberately. "Scared you might lose control?" His grip tightened. "You have no idea what losing control looks like on me." "Then show me." She smiled, feeling his fury radiating like heat. "Or admit that for all your threats and your darkness, you can't bring yourself to touch me." The knife clattered to the floor. His hands found her hips, spinning her around and shoving her against the wall of his office. His eyes blazed with something between rage and hunger. "I hate you," he breathed. "Liar." She traced his bottom lip with her thumb. "You hate that you want me." He kissed her then. Brutal, consuming, absolutely devastating. It tasted like fury and forbidden desire, like 4 months of denial finally shattering. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "This changes nothing," he said. "We'll see about that." Welcome back to Afro-Korean Obsession. Like and subscribe for more. For months earlier. "You're going to Korea." Her mother's voice was flat, lifeless. "The arrangement is already made." Aisha's coffee cup rose halfway to her lips. "Excuse me." "The Nelson family is drowning, Aisha. Your father's gambling debts, the failed businesses, everything." Her mother finally looked up, and what Aisha saw there was defeat. "The Young family has agreed to an alliance through marriage. It's the only way. You sold me." The words came out hollow because if she let any emotion in, she would shatter right there in their Atlanta penthouse. "Like I'm property. We're saving our family." Jung Dae is the heir to one of the most powerful organizations in Asia. This is business. "I'm your daughter, not a business transaction." Her mother's eyes hardened. "In our world, you're both. The wedding is in 5 days. Start packing." 5 days later, Aisha stood in a white dress she barely remembered choosing, in a country where she didn't speak the language, about to marry a man she'd met exactly once for 30 minutes. Jung Dae was devastatingly beautiful in a way that felt lethal. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes that seemed to calculate everything, and a presence that commanded the room without effort. When he slipped the ring on her finger, his touch was ice. "Smile," he murmured in perfect English as cameras flashed. "This is a performance." "So is this marriage?" she whispered back. Something flickered in his eyes. "Recognition. Maybe respect. We understand each other then." "Good. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be." "Complicated is the only thing I know how to be." His jaw tightened. "Then we're going to have problems." "I'm looking forward to it, husband." The reception was a blur of faces she didn't know, congratulations in languages she didn't understand, and Jung Dae's hand on her waist that felt like a brand. When they finally left, riding in silence to his compound in Gangnam, Aisha wondered if she'd ever feel whole again. The compound was obscene in its luxury. Modern architecture mixed with traditional Korean elements, surrounded by walls that were definitely more about keeping people out than aesthetic choice. Inside, everything screamed money and power. "Your quarters are in the East Wing," Jung Dae said, already heading toward what looked like his office. "Stay out of the West Wing. My private spaces are off limits." "Our quarters," Aisha corrected, turning to face him. "We're married." He paused, his back to her. "In name only." Publicly, you're my wife. Privately, you're a stranger I'm contractually obligated to house. Don't confuse the two. How romantic. Romance has nothing to do with this. He glanced back, his expression carved from stone. There are rules. You don't leave the compound without security. You don't speak to outsiders about our business. You attend events as required and play the devoted wife. In return, you get protection, luxury, and freedom within these walls. Except the freedom to actually live. Freedom is meaningless when you're dead. He disappeared into his office, the door closing with finality. Aisha stood alone in the massive living room, fury building in her chest. She'd been married for 8 hours and already felt like she'd been sentenced to life in a gilded cage. The first week, she tested boundaries carefully. She explored every inch of the compound except the forbidden West Wing. She spoke to the staff in her limited Korean, learning more each day. She wore whatever she wanted, comfortable clothes, revealing clothes, anything that felt like her. Jung Dae barely acknowledged her existence. He'd appear at breakfast, impeccably dressed, scroll through his tablet while drinking espresso, and leave. Sometimes he didn't return until after midnight. When they crossed paths, he'd look at her like she was an inconvenient piece of furniture. But Aisha noticed things. The way his jaw would tighten when she walked past in shorts that showed off her long legs. How his eyes would track her movement across a room before he'd force his attention elsewhere. The tiny crack in his armor when she laughed on video calls with her best friend Keisha. His head would tilt slightly, like the sound bothered him. He didn't want her there. That much was clear. But he couldn't quite ignore her either. Perfect. By the second week, Aisha escalated. She started running in the compound's private gym every morning, wearing fitted athletic wear that left little to the imagination. The gym had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the main courtyard, and she knew Jung Dae crossed that courtyard every morning at exactly 7:30 a.m. The first morning, she was on the treadmill when he appeared below. She watched him stop mid-step, his eyes lifting to the window. She was running, ponytail swinging, body on full display, and she pretended not to notice his stare. But she felt it. Felt it like a physical touch burning through the glass. The next morning, she did weights. Squats, lunges, movements that showcased every curve. She caught his reflection in the gym mirrors, standing in the courtyard, frozen, coffee in hand. On the third morning, she did yoga. Slow, deliberate poses that required flexibility and balance. Downward dog with her body forming a perfect arch warrior pose with her legs spread wide. Bridge pose with her hips rising toward the ceiling. When she finished and grabbed her water bottle, she looked down to find Jung Dae in the courtyard, his coffee forgotten on a bench, his eyes dark with something barely controlled. She smiled and waved. He turned and walked away so fast he nearly ran. "You're antagonizing him," Mrs. Kim, the house manager, said one afternoon. She was an older Korean woman who'd worked for the Young family for decades and seemed to find Aisha's antics amusing. "I'm just living my life." Aisha smiled innocently. "You're playing with fire." Jung Dae is not a man who responds well to provocation. Maybe that's exactly why he needs to be provoked. Aisha leaned against the kitchen counter. "He acts like I'm invisible. Like I'm just some obligation he has to tolerate. I refuse to be invisible." Mrs. Kim studied her for a long moment. "You're braver than you look. Or more stubborn. In this world, they're the same thing." Mrs. Kim poured tea. "But be careful. Jung Dae has darkness in him. Things he doesn't show. When that darkness breaks free, even I don't recognize him." "Good." Aisha accepted the tea. "Maybe I want to see all of him. Not just the cold, controlled version he shows the world." "That's what I'm afraid of." The real escalation came 2 weeks later. Aisha had to attend a business dinner with Jung Dae, her first official public appearance since the wedding. She spent hours getting ready, enlisting the help of a stylist Jung Dae had reluctantly approved. When she descended the stairs, Jung Dae was on his phone in the foyer, his back to her. She cleared her throat. He turned and his phone actually slipped from his hand, clattering on the marble floor. Aisha wore a dress that could only be described as dangerous. Deep burgundy, it hugged every single curve before flowing slightly at her thighs. The neckline plunged dramatically. The back was entirely bare except for delicate chains that draped across her brown skin, and the slit went all the way up to her hip. Her natural curls were styled in a high bun, exposing the elegant line of her neck. She'd gone dramatic with her makeup, smoky eyes, and lips the same burgundy as the dress. Jung Dae stared. His eyes traveled from her face down her body and back up again, slow and deliberate, like he was memorizing every inch. She watched his throat work as he swallowed, watched his hands clench into fists at his sides. "Too much?" she asked innocently, doing a slow turn that made the dress's slit reveal her entire thigh and the edge of lace at her hip. "No." The word came out strangled. He cleared his throat, bending to pick up his phone. "You look acceptable." "Just acceptable?" She descended the last few steps, her heels clicking on marble. "I spent 3 hours on this look." "You look fine." "Good. Let's go." But as she walked past him toward the door, she heard him mutter something in Korean that sounded like a curse. She smiled. The dinner was torture. For Jung Dae, at least. Aisha enjoyed every single minute. She sat beside him at the restaurant, close enough that her bare arm brushed his suit jacket. Every time she moved, reaching for her wine glass, leaning forward to engage in conversation, laughing at something one of his associates said, she made sure he noticed. And he noticed everything. She could feel the tension radiating from him, could see the muscle ticking in his jaw, the way his hand tightened on his wine glass every time another man's eyes lingered on her. The men at the table were trying to be subtle about it, but Korean business culture meant they couldn't help being formal and respectful. Still, she caught the glances, the subtle appreciation. Jung Dae caught them too. When she leaned forward to ask one of the associates a question about his business, giving him a generous view of her cleavage, Jung Dae's hand landed on her thigh beneath the table. Hard. Possessive. Warning. She turned to him with wide, innocent eyes. "Yes, dear." His eyes promised retribution. "Nothing. I just wanted to make sure you were enjoying yourself." "Oh, I am." She placed her hand over his, her fingers tracing patterns on his knuckles. His hand was large, warm, and she could feel the calluses that spoke of violence. "Very much." His hand flexed on her thigh, fingers digging in slightly. For a moment, she thought he might drag her out of the restaurant. Instead, he smiled coldly and returned his attention to his business associates. But his hand stayed on her thigh the entire meal. Burning. Possessive. A brand she felt long after he finally removed it. In the car on the way home, the silence was explosive. "You did that on purpose," Jung Dae said finally, his voice deadly quiet. "Did what?" Aisha examined her nails, the picture of innocence. "Everything. The dress. The laughing. Flirting with my associates. I was being charming. Playing the devoted wife like you asked." She turned in her seat to face him. "Isn't that what you wanted? You were being provocative. Maybe you're just easily provoked." His jaw clenched. "You're testing me. Maybe you need to be tested." She let her hand drift to his thigh, felt him tense beneath her touch. "You lock me in that compound like a prisoner. You ignore me. You act like I'm some inconvenience you can't wait to be rid of. But I see the truth. And what's that? You want me." She let her hand drift higher, watching his knuckles go white on the steering wheel. "You want me so badly it's killing you. And you hate yourself for it. Remove your hand." "Why?" She leaned closer, her lips brushing his ear. "Afraid you might lose control? Afraid you might have to acknowledge that you actually feel something." The car swerved to the side of the road so abruptly her seatbelt locked. They stopped on an empty overlook, the city of Seoul spread below them like a carpet of lights. Jung Dae turned to her, and the expression on his face stole her breath. "Raw. Hungry. Barely leashed. You want to know what I feel?" His voice was rough, dangerous. "I feel furious. I feel manipulated. I feel like every moment of every day, you're trying to break me down, trying to make me into something I'm not. And what's that? Someone who cares." He laughed, harsh and bitter. "Someone who could actually want this marriage. Want you." The words should have hurt. Instead, Aisha smiled. Liar. Excuse me? You're lying. She unbuckled her seatbelt, shifting closer. If you didn't care, you wouldn't have noticed what I was wearing. You wouldn't have put your hand on my thigh when those men looked at me. You wouldn't be gripping the steering wheel right now, trying not to touch me. You're delusional. Prove it. She tilted her head, challenge clear in her eyes. Kiss me like you hate me. Show me how much you don't care. Aisha. Do it. Unless you're scared. That did it. He lunged across the console, his hand tangling in her hair as he pulled her into a kiss that was pure rage and hunger. It was brutal, punishing, teeth and tongue, and barely controlled violence. His other hand gripped her hip hard enough to leave marks, pulling her as close as the car would allow. Aisha gasped into his mouth and he swallowed the sound, deepening the kiss until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. His carefully styled hair was mussed from her fingers, his lips swollen. I hate you, he said, voice wrecked. No, you don't. She traced his lips with her thumb. But you wish you did. He released her abruptly, running his hands through his hair. This can't happen. Why not? Because I don't want a wife. I don't want a relationship. He stopped, jaw clenching. You don't want me, she finished. But you do, and it terrifies you. You know nothing about what terrifies me. Then tell me. She reached for his hand. Talk to me like I'm a person instead of an obligation. You are an obligation. That's all this is. A contract. A business arrangement. Then why did you kiss me like that? He had no answer. After a moment, he started the car and pulled back onto the road. The rest of the drive home was silent, thick with tension and unspoken words. Inside the compound, Aisha didn't go to her room. She followed Jung Dae to his office, leaning against the door frame as he poured himself whiskey. Go to bed, Aisha. No. I'm not in the mood for games. This isn't a game. She moved into the room, closing the door behind her. I'm trying to understand you. There's nothing to understand. He downed the whiskey in one swallow. I'm a man who was forced into a marriage I didn't want with a woman who drives me insane. The feeling is mutual. She crossed her arms. But we're stuck with each other. We can either be miserable, or we can figure out how to make this work. It's working fine. You call this working? She gestured between them. We barely speak. We live in the same space, but might as well be strangers. This is working for you. Better than the alternative. Which is? He slammed the glass down on his desk. Which is me touching you. Which is me losing control. Which is me wanting you so badly I can't think straight. He moved toward her, predatory. Which is me making you mine in every way possible and destroying us both in the process. Aisha's heart raced, but she held her ground. Maybe I want to be destroyed. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. She moved closer until they were inches apart. I want to feel something real. Even if it's hate. Even if it burns us both down. He stared at her, breathing hard, every muscle coiled tight. Then he stepped back, shaking his head. Get out of my office. Go to your room and stop trying to seduce me. Why? Is it working? Aisha. Fine. She headed for the door, then paused. But for the record, I'm not trying to seduce you. If I was, you'd know it. What I'm doing is reminding you that I exist. That I'm here. That I'm your wife, whether you like it or not. She looked back at him. And sooner or later, you're going to have to decide what that means. She left him standing in his office, staring after her with an expression she couldn't quite read. The next day, Aisha went nuclear. She woke early and did her workout in the gym wearing what could only be described as strategic scraps of fabric. Sports bra and shorts that should have been illegal, all in white that contrasted beautifully with her dark skin. She knew Jung Dae could see her. She felt his eyes on her the entire time, burning through the glass. After her shower, which she took with the bathroom door open, steam billowing into the hallway, she dressed in the tightest jeans she owned and a crop top that showed off her toned stomach. Jung Dae was in the kitchen when she came down. His eyes traveled over her outfit, jaw tightening. Going somewhere? Shopping. She grabbed an apple from the bowl. That allowance you mentioned? I plan to use it. You'll take security. I figured. She bit into the apple. Your men are about as subtle as a freight train. His eyes narrowed. What men? The ones who follow me everywhere. Did you think I wouldn't notice? She smiled sweetly. There's always two of them. Black SUV. Very Korean Mafia drama. If you're going to have me followed, at least hire people with some finesse. He said nothing, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. It's fine, she continued. I understand. Can't have the wife wandering around unsupervised. Someone might think you actually care what happens to me. It's for your safety. Right. Safety. She threw the apple core away. Well, your watchdogs can follow me to the boutiques. I'm sure they'll love watching me try on dresses. She left before he could respond, feeling his eyes on her back, burning. The boutique was exactly the kind of place she'd always dreamed of shopping. All soft lighting and champagne and assistants who treated her like royalty. The security team waited outside, trying to look casual and failing miserably. Aisha tried on everything. Elegant dresses, casual wear, workout clothes, and finally, the piece de resistance, a black dress that was barely there. Strategic cutouts held together by delicate chains, a neckline that plunged to her navel, and a slit that was completely indecent. She wore it out of the store, her other purchases being sent to the compound. The security team's eyes went wide, but they said nothing. Back at the compound, she found Jung Dae in his office. She didn't knock, just walked in and struck a pose. What do you think? He looked up, and his pen clattered to his desk. His eyes went dark, traveling over every exposed inch of her, which was considerable. What the hell are you wearing? A dress. You like it? It's new. She did a slow turn. Cost a fortune, but I figured you could afford it. Go change. No. Aisha. I'm not in the mood for this. Go change into something appropriate. This is appropriate for going out. You're not going anywhere dressed like that. Actually, I am. She checked her phone. Keisha and some friends are meeting at a club in Itaewon. I thought I'd join them. No. No? She raised an eyebrow. You don't get to tell me what to do, husband. Like hell I don't. That dress is practically an invitation. An invitation to what? Have fun? Feel human? Actually enjoy my life instead of being locked in this gilded prison. An invitation for every man in that club to put his hands on you. And why would you care? She tilted her head. You've made it very clear you don't want me. So why does it matter who else does? His jaw clenched. Go change. Now. Make me. The words hung between them, a challenge and a dare. Jung Dae moved toward her slowly, predatory, until he was close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. You want me to make you? His voice was dangerously soft. If you want me out of this dress so badly, take it off yourself. She saw the exact moment his control snapped. His hands went to the delicate chains at her shoulders, fingers brushing her skin. But then he stopped, breathing hard, and stepped back. Change. Please. The surprise was evident on her face. It was the first time he'd ever said please. Fine. She headed for the door. But I'm still going to the club. In something else, he said. Something less revealing. Something you approve of? Something that won't get you killed. Or me arrested for murder. She studied him for a long moment, seeing the genuine concern beneath the anger. Fine. Something more modest. She changed into jeans and a black top. Still sexy, still fitted, but considerably less scandalous than the dress. Better, she asked when she came back down. Jung Dae looked her over, jaw still tight. Marginally. Good enough. She grabbed her purse. Don't wait up. Aisha. I'll have my phone. I'll have your security team following me. I'll be fine. She softened slightly. I just need a few hours to feel normal. He said nothing, but she could see the war in his eyes. Finally, he nodded once, sharp and unhappy. Thank you, she said quietly, and left. The club in Itaewon was packed, loud, exactly what she needed. Keisha was already there with their mutual friend Mira, and they greeted Aisha with squeals and hugs. Look at you, married life is treating you well, Keisha said, eyeing Aisha's outfit. More like I'm losing my mind slowly, Aisha muttered, but she smiled. They claimed a booth and ordered drinks. Aisha stuck to cocktails, letting the alcohol and the music wash over her. The security team was there. She could see them by the entrance, but she ignored them. She was on her third drink, laughing at something Mira said, when a man approached their booth. "Ladies," he said in accented English, smiling. "Can I buy you a round?" "We're good, thanks," Keisha said politely. But the man's attention was on Aisha. "What about you, beautiful? Let me buy you a drink." "I have a drink." Aisha held up her glass. "Then let me buy you the next one." He slid into the booth beside her, too close, his thigh pressing against hers. "I'm Junho. I'm married." She shifted away, but the booth was curved and there was nowhere to go. "I don't see a husband." His hand landed on her thigh. "What he doesn't know won't hurt him. Remove your hand." Aisha's voice went cold. "Come on, don't be like that." She said, "Remove your hand." The voice came from behind Junho, low and deadly. Aisha's eyes went wide. Jung Dae stood there in all his dark, dangerous glory, looking like death incarnate. His eyes were fixed on where Junho's hand touched Aisha's thigh, and the expression on his face would have made grown men weep. Junho turned, annoyed. "Who the hell are you?" "Her husband." Jung Dae's hand shot out, gripping Junho's wrist with enough force to make the man wince. "The one who's about to break every bone in your hand if you don't remove it from my wife right now." Junho paled, finally recognizing danger when he saw it. He yanked his hand back, scrambling out of the booth. "Sorry, man. I didn't know." "You do now. Leave while you still can." Junho practically ran. Jung Dae slid into the booth where Junho had been, his thigh pressing against Aisha's. She could feel the tension radiating from him, could smell his cologne mixed with something darker, rage barely controlled. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice not quite steady. "Making sure my wife doesn't get groped in a public club." "I had it handled." "You were drunk and cornered." "You didn't have anything handled." His eyes met hers, blazing. "We're leaving." "I'm not done." "Yes, you are." He stood, his hand wrapping around her wrist. Not painful, but absolutely immovable. "Say goodbye to your friends." Aisha looked at Keisha and Mira, who were staring wide-eyed at Jung Dae. She sighed. "I'll call you guys tomorrow." Jung Dae didn't drag her, but he didn't let go either. His hand stayed locked around her wrist as he guided her through the crowd and out to where his car was waiting. Not one with a driver, his own car, the sleek black thing he drove when he was angry. He opened the passenger door, waiting until she got in, then closed it with controlled force. Inside the car, silence stretched between them like a living thing. Aisha could see the muscle ticking in his jaw, could see his hands gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckle force. "How did you even know where I was?" she asked finally. "I always know." He didn't look at her. "You think I let you walk around this city without knowing exactly where you are every second? You think I trust anyone else to keep you safe? The security team reports to me. Every hour. They tell me where you are, what you're doing, who you're with." His eyes cut to her. "You're mine to protect, Aisha. Whether you like it or not. I'm not your possession." "No. You're my wife. Which is worse." He laughed, harsh and bitter. "At least a possession I could lock away and ignore. But you're under my skin, in my head, driving me insane with your workouts and your dresses and your stubborn refusal to just stay safe and out of sight." "I won't be invisible." "I know." He said it like a curse. "You couldn't be invisible if you tried. You walk into a room and every eye goes to you. Men look at you like you're something they can have, something they can touch, and it takes everything in me not to put bullets in their heads." Aisha's breath caught. "Jung Dae." "I hate you," he said quietly, and this time it sounded almost like a confession. "I hate that I can't stop thinking about you. I hate that I notice everything. What you wear, how you smell, the way you laugh when you think no one's listening. I hate that when that man put his hands on you, I wanted to kill him. Actually kill him, consequences be damned." He pulled the car over at another overlook and turned to face her. "I hate that you're right. I want you. God help me, I want you so much it's destroying me." Aisha's heart hammered. "Then stop fighting it." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if I give in, if I let myself have you, you become my weakness." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "And in my world, Weaknesses get killed. I'm already your wife. I'm already a target. But if I love you, if I actually let myself feel something, it becomes real. They'll know. They'll use you against me. They'll hurt you to hurt me. Let them try. She covered his hand with hers. I'm stronger than you think. I know you are. He leaned his forehead against hers. But I'm not. Not when it comes to you. She kissed him then, soft and slow, pouring 4 months of frustration and longing into it. He groaned against her mouth, his control fracturing, his hand tangling in her hair as he pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Aisha traced his jawline with her fingers. Take me home, she whispered. Not to separate rooms. Not to opposite ends of the compound. Take me home and stop pretending you don't want me there. He stared at her for a long moment, something like surrender in his eyes. Then he started the car. Act 3. The claiming. The drive back was electric with tension. Jung Dae's hand found her thigh, possessive and burning through her jeans. Neither spoke, but the air between them crackled with everything unspoken. Inside the compound, they made it as far as the living room before Jung Dae's control snapped completely. He pushed her against the wall, his mouth claiming hers with bruising intensity. His hands were everywhere, her hair, her waist, her hips, pulling her closer as if he could absorb her into himself. Last chance, he growled against her mouth. Tell me to stop. Never. She bit his lower lip. I want this. I want you. You'll regret it. I already regret waiting this long. He lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her toward his bedroom. Their bedroom now. The door slammed shut behind them, and then there was only sensation. His hands learning every curve of her body, her nails raking down his back, clothes disappearing like they'd offended them both, his mouth on her skin, marking her, claiming her gasps and his growls filling the air between them. When they finally came together, it was cataclysmic. For months of tension, of fighting, of denial, all exploding between them. They moved together like they'd been made for this, for each other, finding a rhythm that felt inevitable. Mine, Jung Dae growled against her throat, his movements driving deeper. Say it. Yours, she gasped, her body arching into his. But you're mine too. Say it. Yours. He captured her mouth in a searing kiss. Only yours. Always yours. They moved through the night, desperate and hungry, finally letting themselves feel everything they'd been denying. By the time dawn painted the sky pink and gold, they were tangled together in his bed, their bed, thoroughly exhausted and fundamentally changed. Aisha traced patterns on Jung Dae's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady beneath her palm. No more separate rooms, she said softly. No more distance. He pressed a kiss to her hair. No more pretending I don't want you in my bed every night. Good. She tilted her head up to look at him. Because I'm not going anywhere. His eyes softened, actually softened, something she'd never seen before. I'm sorry. For the last 4 months. For making you feel unwanted when the truth was I wanted you too much. I know. She kissed him softly. But you're going to have to make it up to me. Oh. His hand slid down her spine, making her shiver. I have some ideas about that. I'm sure you do. They spent the morning tangled together, learning each other's bodies with patience they hadn't had the night before. Every touch was a discovery, every kiss a promise. When they finally emerged, starving and thoroughly satisfied, it was almost noon. Jung Dae made coffee while Aisha raided the kitchen, wearing nothing but his shirt. It hung to mid-thigh on her, and every time she reached for something in the upper cabinets, it rode up dangerously. You're doing that on purpose, Jung Dae said, watching her with dark eyes. Doing what? She grabbed a box of cereal, stretching on her toes. He moved behind her, his hands spanning her waist, pulling her back against him. Tempting me. Is it working? Always. He pressed a kiss to her neck. But you need to eat. I didn't exactly let you rest last night. She turned in his arms, looping her hands around his neck. I wasn't complaining. No, you weren't. His smile was wicked. In fact, if I remember correctly, you were very vocal about your approval. She blushed, actually blushed, and he laughed. A real, genuine laugh that transformed his face. "I like that sound," she said softly. "What sound?" "You laughing. You should do it more." His expression grew serious. "I haven't had much reason to laugh. Until you. Well, get used to it. I plan to irritate you into laughter on a regular basis." "I don't doubt it." They ate breakfast, or lunch really, on the terrace overlooking the compound. Aisha watched Jung Dae, studying the man she'd married. In the daylight, relaxed and open, he looked younger, less dangerous, almost normal. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I like this version of you. This version. The one who's not trying to be made of stone." She reached across the table, lacing her fingers with his. "The real you. The real me is still dangerous, Aisha. Still violent when I need to be. Still part of a world that destroys people." "I know." She squeezed his hand. "But you're also the man who had security follow me everywhere because you were worried. The man who showed up at that club to protect me. The man who's looking at me right now like I'm precious. You are." He brought her hand to his lips. "More than you know." The next few weeks were a revelation. Jung Dae didn't just let Aisha into his life, he pulled her in completely. She attended meetings with him, learned the intricacies of his organization, met the key players in his world. And slowly, grudgingly, they began to accept her. She was smart, they realized. Strategic. She saw patterns they missed, found solutions they'd overlooked. And she wasn't afraid of them, which earned their respect more than anything else. At home, they were insatiable. Jung Dae couldn't keep his hands off her, and Aisha loved every minute of it. They'd start the day with her workout, which he now joined, though it usually ended with them tangled together on the mat doing something decidedly not exercise-related. They'd shower together, eat together, fall asleep wrapped in each other's arms. But Aisha noticed things. The way Jung Dae would tense when certain calls came through. The shadows that crossed his face when he thought she wasn't looking. The nights he'd wake with nightmares he refused to talk about. She also noticed his possessiveness growing. When she wanted to go shopping, he insisted on coming. When she met Keisha for lunch, he'd show up halfway through with convenient excuses. When other men looked at her too long, his hand would find her waist, his body language screaming mine in a way that should have annoyed her but somehow didn't. "You're being ridiculous," she told him one evening as they got ready for a gala. "I went to the spa. A male attendant held the door for me. You glared at him so hard I thought he might combust. He was looking at you. He was being polite." His eyes lingered. Aisha turned to face him, hands on her hips. "You can't intimidate every man who looks at me. I'd never leave the house. I could live with that." "I couldn't." She moved to him, straightening his bow tie. "I love that you want to protect me. But you have to trust that I can handle myself. I did just fine before you. Before me, you weren't the wife of Seoul's most dangerous crime lord." His hands found her waist. "Before me, you weren't a target. Every enemy I have will try to use you against me. Every rival will see you as leverage." "I can't," he stopped, jaw clenching. "Can't what?" "I can't lose you." The words came out rough, raw. "I've lost too many people in this life. I can't lose you too." Her heart squeezed. She cupped his face, making him meet her eyes. "You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. Watch me." She kissed him softly. "I'm stubborn, remember? You couldn't get rid of me if you tried." He pulled her closer, burying his face in her neck. "I'm trying not to be a complete tyrant about this. I know. And I appreciate the effort." She ran her fingers through his hair. "But you need to let me breathe a little." "Okay." He nodded against her shoulder, but she could feel his reluctance. The gala was their first major public event since they'd finally gotten together. Aisha wore emerald green, a gown that was elegant but daring, with a neckline that plunged and a slit that went dangerously high. When she came down the stairs, Jung Dae's eyes went dark with hunger and something else. Pride. "You're magnificent," he said, offering his arm. "We match." She gestured to his deep green bow tie and pocket square. "Did you plan that?" "Maybe." He smiled. "I wanted everyone to know we belong together." At the gala, they were magnetic. Jung Dae's hand never left her back, her waist, her hand clasped in his. They danced, and she could feel every eye in the room on them. "They're staring," she murmured. "Let them." He pulled her closer. "Let them see that you're mine. That I'm yours. That anyone who tries to come between us will regret it." So possessive. "You love it." "Maybe." She grinned. "But don't let it go to your head." They were laughing when the first gunshot rang out. Chaos erupted. Armed men burst through the service entrance, and suddenly the elegant gala became a war zone. Jung Dae shoved Aisha behind a marble pillar, his own weapon appearing from somewhere in his impeccable tuxedo. "Stay down," he ordered. But Aisha saw one of the gunmen flanking them, his weapon rising toward Jung Dae's unprotected back. Without thinking, she grabbed a champagne bottle from a nearby table and swung with everything she had. The bottle shattered against the man's skull. He crumpled. Jung Dae spun, eyes wide with shock and fury. "I told you to stay down." He was going to shoot you. The other attackers were already being subdued by Jung Dae's security team. But in the aftermath, as police sirens wailed and guests huddled in corners, Jung Dae grabbed Aisha's arm and pulled her toward the exit. In the car, silence stretched between them like a physical thing. Aisha could see his jaw working, could see his hands gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckle force. "You could have been killed," he said finally, voice deadly quiet. "So could you." "That's not the same thing." "Why not?" "Because you're the powerful crime lord and I'm just the wife." She turned to face him. "We're partners, Jung Dae. Equals. When you're in danger, I'm going to protect you, just like you protect me. Partners don't risk their lives unnecessarily. And they don't ask their partners to just stand by and watch them die." He pulled the car over abruptly, turning to her with blazing eyes. "You don't understand. If something happened to you, if you got hurt because of me, because of my world, I couldn't survive it. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you fell in love with me. I didn't have a choice." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to care this much? But you made it impossible not to. You walked into my life with your stubbornness and your fire and your refusal to be ignored, and you destroyed every wall I'd built." "Good." She covered his hand with hers. "Because I wasn't happy being locked out." He kissed her then, desperate and claiming, pouring every ounce of fear and love into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead pressed against hers. "I love you," he said. "I'm terrified of it. I'm furious about it. But I love you more than I've ever loved anything. I love you too." She traced his jawline. "And I'm not going anywhere. Not even when people shoot at us. Especially not then." His smile was slight but real. "Though I'd prefer if you didn't make a habit of hitting armed men with bottles. I'll try to restrain myself." Liar. They drove home slowly, neither wanting to break the spell. Inside the compound, they made love with renewed intensity, a celebration of survival, of love, of their unbreakable bond. This time was different from the desperate claiming of that first night. This was reverent, thorough, each touch a promise. Afterward, tangled together in their bed, Jung Dae traced patterns on Aisha's bare shoulder. "I have something to tell you," he said quietly. Aisha's stomach tightened. "That sounds ominous." "There's been a power struggle in the organization. Some of the older families don't approve of our marriage. They think you're a weakness, a foreigner who has no place in our world." "Charming. My father wants to transition leadership to me fully. With you recognized as my partner. My equal in all things." Aisha's breath caught. "That's huge. It's unprecedented. A woman, a foreigner, sharing power in a traditional organization like ours." He turned to face her. "But you've proven yourself. And I won't lead without you. Not anymore. Some people will never accept it." "I know. Which is why we need to be stronger together than they are divided." His eyes searched hers. "Are you sure you want this? It's not too late to walk away. I can arrange for you to leave, to be safe, to—" "Stop." She pressed her fingers to his lips. "I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I'm standing beside you, facing whatever comes." She smiled. "Besides, I think I'd make an excellent crime boss. You already are one." He kissed her softly. "My queen. My equal." My everything. So dramatic. You love it. I really do. The ceremony was held at the Young family estate 2 weeks later. Every major player in Seoul's underground was there, assessing, judging, calculating. Aisha wore traditional Korean attire mixed with her own style, a fusion that represented exactly what she and Jung Dae were building together. Modern meets traditional. East meets West. Power meets power. When the elder Jung placed his ring on her finger, officially recognizing her position alongside Jung Dae, the room erupted in applause. Not everyone was happy. She could see the disapproval on some faces, but she met every gaze steadily, Jung Dae's hand in hers. That night, back in their bedroom, Jung Dae carried her over the threshold like it was their wedding night all over again. Ready for this adventure, Mrs. Jung? Ready for anything, Mr. Jung. She pulled him down for a kiss. As long as it's with you. They made love slowly, savoring each touch, each whispered promise. The urgency of their early days had mellowed into something deeper, more profound. They knew each other's bodies intimately now, could read every breath and sigh. 3 months later, Aisha woke feeling nauseous. She barely made it to the bathroom before losing her dinner from the night before. Jung Dae appeared in the doorway, concern written across his face. You okay? Fine. She rinsed her mouth. Must have been something I ate. But when it happened again the next morning, and the morning after that, concern turned to suspicion. Aisha stared at herself in the mirror, her hand drifting to her still flat stomach. No, it couldn't be. But the pregnancy test she took that afternoon said otherwise. 3 tests, actually, because she couldn't quite believe the first 2. Pregnant. She was pregnant. Jung Dae's baby was growing inside her. She sat on the bathroom floor, tests scattered around her, trying to process this. A baby. Their baby. She pressed her hand to her stomach, wondering at the life growing there. She found Jung Dae in his office, staring at his computer with unfocused eyes. He looked up when she entered, and whatever he saw on her face made him stand immediately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I mean, nothing's bad. She took a breath. I'm pregnant. The words hung between them. Jung Dae stared at her, expression unreadable. And for a horrible moment, she thought he might be angry. But then his face transformed. Shock giving way to wonder, giving way to something that looked like pure joy. You're sure? 3 tests. I'm sure. He crossed to her in 3 strides, his hands framing her face. We're having a baby. Are you happy? She searched his face. I know we didn't plan this. I know it's fast. Happy doesn't even begin to cover it. He kissed her, deep and thorough. Terrified? Yes. Overwhelmed? Absolutely. But happy, Aisha, you've given me everything. A real marriage. Love. And now this. His hand joined hers on her stomach. This is more than I ever dreamed possible. She felt tears prick her eyes. We're going to be parents. You're going to be an incredible mother. And you'll be an overprotective nightmare of a father. Absolutely. He grinned. Our child is going to hate me by the time they're 13. Probably. She laughed through her tears. But they'll love you too. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was precious and fragile. I love you so much. Both of you. We love you too. The pregnancy changed things. Jung Dae, who had already been overprotective, became impossible. He didn't want Aisha doing anything that might be remotely dangerous, which in his mind included basically everything. I'm pregnant, not made of glass, she snapped one morning when he tried to carry her down the stairs. You could fall. I've been walking downstairs my entire life without incident. But now you're carrying our child. I'm not taking any chances. Jung Dae, I love you, but if you don't let me walk down these stairs myself, I'm going to push you down them. He backed off, but she could see the worry in his eyes. It was almost sweet. Almost. The workouts continued, modified for pregnancy. Jung Dae watched like a hawk, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of strain. When she moved into certain positions, he'd actually adjust her, fussing like a mother hen. You're adorable when you're overprotective, she told him. I'm terrifying. Sure you are. She patted his cheek. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Despite Jung Dae's protests, Aisha continued working. Being pregnant didn't make her less capable, and she wasn't about to let anyone, including her husband, treat her like she was. When a rival organization tried to lowball them on a deal, Aisha leaned back in her chair, hand resting on her barely there baby bump, and smiled sweetly. "Gentlemen, I'm pregnant, not stupid. Try again with an offer that doesn't insult both my intelligence and my patience." Jung Dae looked like he might kiss her right there in the conference room. At 5 months, Aisha's bump was unmistakable. She'd had to update her entire wardrobe, though she still refused to hide her pregnancy. If anything, she dressed more boldly, form-fitting clothes that showed off her changing body, heels that made her legs look endless despite her shifting center of gravity. "You're glowing," Keisha said when they met for lunch. "Pregnancy looks good on you." "I feel like a whale. A beautiful, elegant whale." "Thanks. I think." They were laughing when Aisha felt it. A flutter in her stomach, soft and unmistakable. Her hand flew to her bump, eyes going wide. "What's wrong?" Keisha asked, concerned. "Nothing. The baby moved." "I felt the baby move." She called Jung Dae immediately, not caring that he was in a meeting. "The baby moved." "What? Is everything okay? Should I call the doctor?" "Everything's fine. More than fine. I just wanted you to know." She smiled, pressing her hand more firmly against her stomach. "Our baby is saying hello. I'm coming home." "You don't have to. I'm already in the car." He made it home in record time, bursting through the door like the compound was on fire. Aisha was sitting on the couch, hand still on her stomach, grinning. "Show me," he demanded. "I can't control when it happens. The baby moves when the baby wants to move." He knelt in front of her, placing both hands on her bump. They waited, silent and still, for what felt like forever. Then a tiny flutter against his palm. Jung Dae's eyes went wide, then suspiciously bright. "That's our baby." "That's our baby," she confirmed, running her fingers through his hair. "I'm going to be a father." He pressed his forehead against her stomach. "God, I'm terrified." "Me too. But we'll figure it out together." Together. He looked up at her, and she saw everything in his eyes: love, fear, wonder, determination. Always together. The 7th month brought complications. Aisha was put on modified bed rest after a scare with her blood pressure, and Jung Dae became even more impossible. He worked from home, barely leaving their bedroom, watching her like she might disappear if he blinked. "This is ridiculous," Aisha said, staring at the ceiling. "I'm going insane." The doctor said rest. Rest, not solitary confinement. She turned her head to look at him, working on his laptop from the chair beside the bed. "I need to move, Jung Dae. I need to do something. You can read, watch movies. I want to feel human." She struggled to sit up, and he immediately moved to help her. "I want to walk around my own home. I want to eat at the table instead of in bed. I want." "Okay." He held up his hands. "Okay, you're right. Let's get you up." He helped her to her feet, steadying her as she found her balance. Her stomach was huge now, and everything felt awkward and unwieldy, but standing felt good. Moving felt better. They walked slowly through the compound, Jung Dae's arm around her waist. When they reached the gym site of so many early morning provocations, Aisha smiled. "Remember when I used to do yoga here just to drive you crazy?" "You mean 4 days ago?" She laughed. "Fair point. But remember those first few weeks when you'd watch from the doorway and pretend you weren't?" "I wasn't pretending anything. I was openly staring and hating myself for it." "And now?" "Now I'd watch you every morning for the rest of my life and never get tired of it." He guided her to the couch, settling beside her. "You walked into my life like a hurricane, Aisha. Destroyed everything I thought I knew about myself. And I've never been happier. Even with the sleepless nights ahead? The diapers? The screaming? Especially with all that." He placed his hand on her stomach, feeling their baby kick. "This is real. We're real. After years of living in shadows, doing things I'm not proud of, you gave me something worth protecting. Worth living for." She laced her fingers with his. "You gave me that too. I thought being forced into this marriage was the worst thing that could happen to me. but it turned out to be the best. We should tell people that story at parties. How did you two meet? Oh, my father sold me to save his debts, and my husband hated me on sight. But then I did workouts in my underwear, and everything worked out. Jung Dae burst out laughing. That's terrible, but accurate. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. At 8 months, they held a small gathering at the compound. Close friends, key family members. Aisha wore a flowing dress that accommodated her bump, her natural glow making makeup almost unnecessary. She was talking with Keisha when she noticed a new face in the crowd, a young man, handsome, watching her with unconcealed interest. Her instincts prickled. Who's that? She murmured to Keisha. No idea. Maybe one of Jung Dae's associates. But something felt off. The way he looked at her wasn't professional or polite. It was assessing. Calculating. Aisha made her way over to Jung Dae, who was deep in conversation with his second-in-command. He immediately wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Tired, he asked quietly. Who's the guy by the window? Dark suit, watching us. Jung Dae's expression didn't change, but she felt him tense. I don't know, but I'm about to find out. He excused himself and crossed the room with predatory grace. Aisha watched as he approached the stranger, saw the brief conversation, saw Jung Dae's expression go cold. Security appeared from nowhere, escorting the man out. When Jung Dae returned, his jaw was tight. He was from the Kim family, sent to assess our situation. By situation, you mean me, the pregnant foreigner who has no business in your world. He implied as much before I had him removed. His hand found her stomach protectively. I won't tolerate disrespect. Not to you, and not to our child. I can handle a few disapproving looks, Jung Dae. You shouldn't have to. He pulled her closer. You're the strongest person I know, Aisha. But you're also pregnant with our child, and I'll be damned if I let anyone make you feel less than you are. She softened, pressing a kiss to his jaw. My overprotective husband. Always. At 38 weeks, Aisha woke in the middle of the night to a sharp pain across her stomach. She lay still, breathing through it, hoping it was just Braxton Hicks. Then her water broke. Jung Dae. She shook him awake. Jung Dae, it's time. He went from asleep to fully alert in seconds. Time? As in the baby's coming. Now. If she thought he was overprotective before, it was nothing compared to the organized chaos that followed. He had her hospital bag, packed for weeks, in hand immediately. He called their doctor, their security team, probably half of Seoul. He helped her dress with shaking hands, kissing her forehead repeatedly. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I've got you. I know. She gripped his hand as another contraction hit. But maybe drive a little faster. The hospital room was private, luxurious, exactly what she'd expected. But Aisha barely noticed the amenities as labor progressed. All she knew was pain and Jung Dae's hand in hers, and his voice murmuring encouragement. You're incredible. You're so strong. I love you so much. I'm going to break your hand, she gasped. Break both of them. I don't care. Just keep breathing. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, she couldn't tell anymore. Time became meaningless, measured only in contractions and rest periods that were never long enough. And then, finally, the doctor was telling her to push. You can do this, Jung Dae whispered, his forehead pressed to hers. You can do anything. She pushed, drawing on reserves of strength she didn't know she had. Once, twice, 3 times. And then a cry. Sharp and angry and absolutely perfect. It's a girl, the doctor announced, placing the tiny, wriggling baby on Aisha's chest. Aisha looked down at her daughter, their daughter, and felt her entire world shift. She was perfect. Tiny and screaming and absolutely perfect, with a head full of dark hair and skin that was a beautiful blend of both her parents. Oh my God, she breathed. Jung Dae, look at her. Jung Dae was staring at their daughter with an expression of absolute wonder. His hand reached out tentatively, touching her tiny fist. The baby immediately grabbed his finger, her crying settling slightly. She's perfect, he said, voice rough with emotion. You're both perfect. They let him cut the cord, and then the nurses took the baby to clean her up. Jung Dae followed them like a shadow, not letting his daughter out of his sight. When they brought her back, wrapped in a soft blanket, Jung Dae settled into the chair beside Aisha's bed, holding their daughter like she was made of glass. "Hi," he whispered to her. "I'm your dad. And I promise you, I'm going to protect you and love you every single day of your life. You and your mom, you're my whole world now." The baby yawned, her tiny hand reaching up toward his face. Aisha felt tears stream down her face as she watched them, her husband and her daughter. Her family. "What should we name her?" Jung Dae asked softly. They'd had lists, suggestions from family, traditional names, and modern ones. But looking at her daughter now, Aisha knew. Zara. It means princess in Arabic. Blooming flower in Hebrew. Jung Dae looked up, eyes bright. Zara Young. It's perfect. She's perfect. She is. He stood carefully, placing Zara in Aisha's arms. Just like her mother. Aisha cradled her daughter, breathing in that newborn smell, feeling the weight of her in her arms. This tiny person who was half her, half Jung Dae, and completely their own miracle. "We made this," she whispered. "We made this." Jung Dae settled on the edge of the bed, his arm around Aisha, both of them looking down at their daughter. "I never thought I'd have this. A family, love, something real to protect instead of just power and territory. And now? Now I have everything." He kissed Aisha's temple. "Everything that matters." They brought Zara home 3 days later to a compound that had been completely transformed. The nursery was a masterpiece, soft colors, the best furniture money could buy, enough toys and clothes to outfit 10 babies. "You went a little overboard," Aisha said, looking around in amazement. "I wanted her to have everything." "She is us. That's everything." Zara was a good baby, as babies went. She ate and slept and cried, but nothing they couldn't handle. What surprised Aisha was how naturally Jung Dae took to fatherhood. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floors at 3 a.m. singing Korean lullabies, stared at Zara with such absolute devotion it made Aisha's heart ache. "You're a natural," she told him one night, watching him rock their daughter back to sleep. "I'm terrified every second that I'll break her." "You won't. You're gentle with her." She moved closer. "With both of us." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "You've changed me, Aisha. Made me into someone I actually like being. You did that yourself. I just loved you while you figured it out." 6 weeks postpartum, the doctor cleared Aisha for normal activities. She started working out again, modified, careful, but still moving her body in ways she'd missed. Jung Dae watched from the doorway, Zara asleep in his arms. "Miss this?" he asked. "I missed feeling like myself." She transitioned into a stretch. "I missed my body belonging to me." "You're beautiful," he moved closer. "You were beautiful before, during, and after. Every version of you. Even when I was huge and cranky and threatened to murder you for breathing too loud, especially then." He smiled. "Though I did take the death threat seriously." She laughed, abandoning her stretch to kiss him. Zara stirred between them, making soft baby noises, and they both froze. "Please don't wake up," Jung Dae whispered. "We just got you to sleep." But Zara's eyes opened, focusing on her parents with that intense newborn stare. And then she smiled. An actual, genuine smile. "Did you see that?" Aisha gasped. "She smiled at us. She's brilliant. Obviously takes after her mother. And her father." Aisha touched Zara's tiny hand. "She has your determination. I can already tell. God help us all." They settled onto the bed together, Zara between them, just watching her exist. It was perfect. Quiet and domestic and nothing like what Aisha had imagined when she'd been forced into this marriage. But it was real. And it was theirs. 3 months after Zara's birth, Jung Dae came home with flowers and an expression that made Aisha suspicious. "What did you do?" she asked. "Why do you assume I did something?" "Because you have that look. The one that says you're about to ask for forgiveness instead of permission." He had the grace to look sheepish. "I may have bought a house." "You what?" "A house. Outside the city. Big yard, lots of space. Security, but also privacy. Somewhere Zara can grow up without being surrounded by compound walls." Aisha stared at him. "You bought a house?" I wanted to surprise you. Well, mission accomplished. She took the flowers, shaking her head. Can I at least see it before we move? Of course. I'm not completely crazy. He pulled her close. I just want our daughter to have a childhood. Grass to play on, trees to climb eventually, a swing set. You're already planning a swing set? I'm planning everything. His hand found the small of her back. I want to give you both the world. We just want you. She kissed him softly. But yes, show me this house. If it has a good workout space, I might forgive you for making major purchases without consulting me. It has an entire studio. Mirrors, equipment, everything. You're forgiven. The house was perfect. Modern but warm, spacious but cozy, exactly what they didn't know they needed. They moved in over the following month, transforming the compound into their city base while making the house their actual home. Zara thrived there. She grew from a tiny newborn into a chubby, happy baby who laughed at everything and clearly had both parents wrapped around her tiny finger. She's going to be trouble, Aisha said one afternoon, watching Jung Dae play with their daughter on the living room floor. Takes after her mother. And her father. She settled beside them. Remember when you told me you hated me? I remember threatening a lot of things. You were right about one thing, though. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You did ruin me. For other men. For any other life. You made me fall in love with you. Gave me a family. Showed me what it means to be truly seen and valued. Good. He kissed her temple. Because you ruined me right back. Made me feel. Made me want things I never thought I could have. Made me human instead of just a weapon. Zara gurgled her agreement, and they both laughed. A year into Zara's life, Aisha stood in their backyard, watching Jung Dae push their daughter on the swing he'd built. Zara's squeals of delight filled the air, and Jung Dae was laughing, looking younger and lighter than she'd ever seen him. This was what they'd built. Not just a marriage or a partnership, but a life. A family. Something real and messy and absolutely perfect. Higher, Daddy. Zara shrieked. Any higher and you'll fly away. I want to fly. Aisha pulled out her phone, snapping a picture. This moment, she wanted to remember it forever. Her dangerous husband transformed into a devoted father. Her forced marriage transformed into a love story. Her prison transformed into her home. Mama, Zara called out. Come swing. There's only one swing, baby. Daddy will share. Jung Dae's eyes met Aisha's across the yard, and the heat in them made her breath catch. Even after everything, the marriage, the pregnancy, the sleepless nights with a newborn, he still looked at her like he wanted to devour her. Later, he mouthed. After bedtime. She smiled, promise in her eyes. Later. Because this was their life now. Days filled with laughter and family, nights filled with passion and whispered promises. The darkness of Jung Dae's world still existed, it always would. But they'd found light together. Built something that couldn't be destroyed by outside forces because it was forged in fire and sealed with love. That evening, after Zara was asleep and the house was quiet, Jung Dae found Aisha in their bedroom, standing by the window, looking out at the city lights in the distance. Penny for your thoughts? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Just thinking about how far we've come. She leaned back against him. A year ago, I hated you. The feeling was mutual. And now? She turned in his arms. Now I can't imagine my life without you. He cupped her face. You're everything, Aisha. My wife, my partner, my best friend, the mother of my child. You took a cold, empty life and filled it with warmth and purpose. You did the same for me. She traced his jawline. I thought being forced into this marriage was a death sentence. Turns out it was a beginning. He kissed her, slow and deep and thorough. I love you. I love you too. She pulled him toward the bed. Now stop being sentimental and remind me why I married you. I thought you married me because your father sold you. That was the legal reason. She pulled his shirt over his head. But I stayed because you're incredible in bed. Just incredible? Sometimes adequate. Adequate? He grinned wickedly, backing her toward the mattress. I'm going to make you take that back. Promises, promises. They came together with the practiced ease of lovers who knew each other intimately, but also with the spark that had been there from that first desperate night. The passion between them hadn't dimmed. If anything, it had grown deeper, richer, layered with love and trust and partnership. Afterward, tangled together in their bed, Jung Dae traced lazy patterns on Aisha's bare shoulder. "No regrets?" he asked. "Only that it took us 4 months to figure out we belong together. We were stubborn. We still are." She smiled. "But at least now we're stubborn together." Together, he pulled her closer. Always together. And as they drifted off to sleep, Aisha thought about the girl who'd been sold into marriage, terrified and angry and determined not to break. That girl would be shocked to see where she'd ended up. Loved, cherished, with a family and a purpose and a man who'd walk through fire for her. But she'd also be proud. Because Aisha hadn't just survived being forced into this marriage, she'd conquered it, transformed it, made it into something beautiful. And she'd done it while wearing short dresses and doing workouts in her underwear. Because if there was one thing Aisha Young knew, it was that you could be powerful and provocative at the same time. You could demand respect while making your husband lose his mind with desire. You could be a mother and a wife and a force of nature all at once. She'd proven that strength came in many forms. And love, real love, could bloom even in the darkest places. All it took was stubbornness, fire, and a willingness to trace your husband's lips while he held a knife to your throat. Everything else was just details. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more amazing stories.